Right here. You help me drop this thing.
Welcome back to Sunday Serving Channel. I'm glad to have you with us here on this last day in February. Spring is coming. It's March tomorrow. Up here in the Northeast, that means maple sapping season or sugaring season. It's a sign of life, of spring. And it might not look like it because there's snow on the ground. Last night we had a light dusting of snow. We call it sugar snow. But if you look over here, we got our maple sap buckets into the maple trees. The distinct sugar maple, beautiful tree. It's got distinctive bark pattern, pointy buds. And every year, this time of year, the miracle happens as the days warm, the sun shines, warms up the branches. This miracle of new life, the sap from the roots, the sap of life that has sugar and minerals, all the things that have been collected from the ground, from the rhizomes, the water from the ground comes in through the roots. And as the branches warm up, the sap rises up to the twigs, to the branches, to the buds. And then the cold nights bring the sap back down. And as it warms up, of course, the buds open up and the leaves come out and new life happens. And that's actually, there's sap in all trees. But up here in the Northeast, we collect the maple sap, drill a little hole in the tree, put in a spile, it looks like something like this, and the sap will drip out. On a warm day, it'll be dripping out like four drips a minute. You collect the sap, which is sweet. It's got sugar in it. And then you take it and collect it in these buckets like this. Kids like to do that, bring it into the fire. We've got a boiling pan behind us here. Pour it in there and boil it down to maple sap, maple syrup, and maple sugar. Of course, this is a skill that was learned from the Native Americans. They used to collect the sap and make maple sugar, which they preserved their meats in. Anyways, I was thinking, new life, sap, where do we find that in the Bible? And actually, there's no mention of maple sapping in the Bible, but it does mention sap, and sap giving life to the trees. And there's some beautiful psalms that talk about sap. I think it's Psalm 104 has a line that I love. It says, "The trees of the Lord are full of sap." So I'll read a bit more of that psalm, Psalm 104. "Bless the Lord, O my soul. O Lord my God, thou art great. Thou art clothed with honor and majesty, who coverest thyself with light as with a garment, who stretchest out the heavens like a curtain, who layeth the beams of his chambers in the waters, who maketh the clouds his chariot, who walketh upon the wings of the wind, who maketh his angel spirits, his ministers flaming fire, who laid the foundations of the earth, that it should never be removed. Thou covered it with the deep as with a garment," like this garment of snow we have today. "The waters stood above the mountains. He sendeth the springs into the valleys, which run among the hills. They give drink to every beast of the field. The wild asses quench their thirst. By them shall the flows of the heavens have their habitation, which sing among the branches. He watereth the hills from his chambers, and the earth is satisfied with the fruit of his words." His works, it says. "He causeth the grass to grow for the cattle, and the herbs for the service of man, that he may bring forth food out of the earth. And wine that maketh glad the heart of man, and the oil to make his face shine, and bread which strengthens the man's heart." Well, all wonderful things. And here's the part about sap. "The trees of the Lord," like we have here, "are full of sap. The cedars of Lebanon, which he hath planted." Of course, these aren't cedars of Lebanon, they're maple sugar trees. But there we have it, the creation of God, nature full of wonder, of things that gives us food, gives us gladness, and the sap which brings forth the water of life up to the branches so that they can produce their leaves and their fruit. Of course, there's another psalm that talks about sap. It's Psalm 92, and talks about the trees shall bring forth fruit in old age. They shall be full of sap and green. So, in the New Testament, I couldn't find any references about sap except for one in Romans, but it does talk a lot about roots and being part of the vine. Of course, we have that wonderful word of Jesus in John 15. I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit, and apart from me you can do nothing. So that idea of being part of the vine, we have to be part of the vine, part of the trunk. We have to have roots in the ground. What are our roots? Are we rooted in the ground? Are we rooted in Jesus? And to remain part of that, to be alive. And then in Romans 11, Paul was talking to the Gentiles about how the Gentiles were grafted into the vine of the Jewish people who had this covenant with God, and that was for them as well. And he said, if some of the branches have been broken off, and you, though a wild olive shoot, have been grafted in among the others, and now share in the nourishing sap of the olive root. So that idea of we are grafted onto the vine of Jesus, and we are to share with that sap that comes from the olive root. That's a beautiful picture. So, what are we rooted in? We need to be rooted in Jesus, and we need that water, the water of life, to come up from the roots to us. And in Revelations 22, there's a wonderful passage about the water of life, giving water to the tree of life. Here in Revelations 22. And he showed me a pure river of the water of life, clear as crystal, proceeding out of the throne of God and of the Lamb. And in the midst of the street of it, on either side of the river, there was the tree of life, which bore 12 kinds of fruit, and yielded her fruit every month, and the leaves of the trees were for the healing of the nations. Isn't that beautiful? The leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nations. So, let's think about that picture. We need the sap to come up our branches to bear fruit, and it comes from the roots. And the water of life comes from God, and it's free. And if we're rooted in Jesus, that sap can come into our lives and can bear fruit, can give leaves, and can bring us nutrition and energy and life and love. If we are rooted in Jesus and we are able to take in that water of life. So let the spring come, let the sun beat down, warm up the trees, warm up our hearts. Let's tap into that water of life, and let's think of all God's beautiful gifts. And God bless you all. Have a wonderful week.
Rick. Ready, Kim.